Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Julie Norvaisas here at Dscout. I'm coming at you here from my home office in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We're going to get started here in a minute with our panel discussion, Bold by Design Leadership Lessons for 2026. It's fun to see people starting to trickle in. Please drop in the chat where you're from. I always love to see that. It makes me feel connected to people all over the world. So much fun. And since we're all in a reflective mood this year, as the year and this moment as the year wraps up, please share something that you learned about yourself in 2025. Now, this could be something personal or something professional. Just share a little bit about something you've learned. I'll share that something I've learned about myself this year professionally is that it's okay to give myself permission to slow down. And personally, I've relearned that I'm a happier person if I do something creative and expansive every single day, something away from intrusive screens like cooking, trying a new recipe, tie-dyeing, I'm learning a new skill there, drawing or yoga. I actually created a post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago on this and was so energized by hearing everybody's responses of what they're getting into these days. Um, all right. As I must, a few items of housekeeping before we really get into things here. Number one, please chat. Use that chat function. We're here to kind of spark ideas, to provoke you, to share some reflections, but this webinar is really going to come to life through your engagement and your involvement in the chat with each other, get to know each other, make some connections. And finally, we're all familiar with all the Zoom ins and outs at this point, but the Q&A button at the bottom, please share your questions in there as they occur to you. We're going to have some time at the end to take your questions, so don't be shy to add them as they come up. All right, now, because of course I do, I have a quick and very unscientific poll to get us warmed up on the topic of bold leadership. So I'm curious what you all think is the one characteristic that the most important characteristic in leaders you admire. Yes, you can only pick one. No, this is not a perfect list. No, there is no other. Starting to see the answers trickle in, which is really interesting. Oh, it's a tough competition. Um, it looks like, I don't know, can you share the results here? Or are they still coming in, Colleen? Okay, we've got about 150 responses, and it's really interesting. Kind of a tie between integrity had a strong start, I will say. And then it was kind of a tie between transparency and vision. Now, again, this is not scientific. I only wanted us to do this to start thinking about this topic, right? I want us all to reflect today as we talk, as we have the discussion on how you responded, what word you chose, or what word came to your mind that wasn't on this list. And think about how you communicate the importance of that to your leadership. And also think about how you show up in that way yourself. And like, let that be the prism of our conversation today, right? Our own leadership agency, how we show up, and leadership accountability, how we expect others to show up. All right. So, indeed, we are in the midst of an era of very wild change, putting leadership to the test at every level. I am personally transfixed right now by how rapidly our worlds and our ways of working, even ideas about what it is to be and to work, are changing, and what that's doing to us, right? Bringing out the best and sometimes the worst in us. I don't think I'm alone this year in feeling at times like I've gained superpowers, like I can fly. And at other times, like I'm ready to throw all my technology into Lake Michigan, substitute the body of water near you. But scoping it down to our worlds a little bit, we're collectively experiencing very extreme shifts in how UX, product, strategy, and engineering teams work, how business is conducted, even more compressed timelines, if that was seemed possible, changing expectations, new skills emerging, AI-assisted workflows, and even more blurred lines between roles. We can't ignore the pace of change or the scope of change or indeed the reality of change. We're learning so much right now. Can you feel that? Can you feel how much we've learned this year? And we were chatting a little earlier. It's been kind of spicy out there lately. If you're paying attention to the UX discourse, you may have noticed a lot of thoughts and feelings bubbling up. That's normal, that's human. But as you process all of that, let's remember that no one among us has it all figured out. That's what we get to do together. And today we're here to take a little bit of a step back from all that, reflect on what has been learned and what we can take into the next year as we continue to shape our future. So these are the incredible group of panelists we have today to noodle on that with me and share their thoughts, a really wide range of perspectives. Welcome, Ryan, Jose, Kassie, and Noam. We have had a lot of fun in our prep calls figuring out what we want to talk about, haven't we? We had many of them, and they were wide ranging. So today, our conversation is going to drift from reinventing value and realigning quality, reimagining roles, and leading through change with curiosity and clarity. We're going to stay on that path of what we learned this year, even as we navigate some familiar territory, and then how we're drawing that forward. All right, let's shake that snow globe, shall we? I'm going to stop sharing here and let's focus on, if I can find the button. Oh, there we go. And let's focus on the conversation. Hi, everybody. Let's get started. Please introduce yourselves. Tell us about your background, your role, what you're doing these days, and what bold leadership looks like to you. Let's start with Jose.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. It's great to see people from around the world join us today. I'm Jose Coronado. I'm based outside of New York City. My background is in industrial design, but my entire career has been in digital, enterprise tech, management consulting, and financial services. I think from a bold leadership perspective, I noted three things that I think are important. We need to lead with authenticity and purpose. I saw one of the comments that you could be clear, but could be dishonest at the same time. So it's about authenticity, or you will be found out. The other two are embracing learning and experimentation. I think we are in a time where we have to embrace the new tools and technology, whether we like it or not.
Yeah,
And we need to take some risks if we want to move ourselves and our teams forward.
yeah,
Kassie.
absolutely.
Hi, I'm Kassie. I lead research here at Bill, which is a financial back office software platform. I'm in not so sunny California today. And on the heels of what Jose mentioned, agree plus one on curiosity and experimentation. I think a lot about how this year is required as a leader is to get really back into the growth is uncomfortable, and that means I have been growing a lot this year, trying
Yeah,
things, taking those risks, but with purpose and clarity. So I think those were words on your list, Julie. Having a vision, having kind of an outcome you're actually driving towards. What is the how we get there might need to change, the ways, the tactics and methods we use. But that vision of trying to bring that to life with the others in your team to help you get there, I think has been really important. And
yeah,
doing that with integrity and authenticity, I plus one agree with Jose on that.
yeah.
I think we're going to, I think it's Noam.
Yeah, let's kick it to Noam.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. First of all, it's lovely to be here with everyone. I am Noam. I live in Florida with my lovely partner and our three kids. I am leading a small but amazing team at Figma called the AI Insights team. We're part of the research team within Figma, and we do everything to do with research ops and also building out AI native tools for researchers, for everyone at Figma, and even for Figma's customers and users. When I think about bold leadership after the year that's been, I think mostly about something that's always been important to me, which is leaving room for failure, getting
Mhm.
comfortable with failure, because a big part of experimentation, which was mentioned here, and a big part of tinkering and a big part of building is failing and trying again. And
Yeah,
then the second thing, which I feel like I bring from my coaching background and psychology background, is that many of us carry a lot of baggage with us and also self-imposed limiting beliefs. And it's really quite incredible when you're able as a leader and you're able to help others as a leader remove those self-limitations, those artificial barriers that we impose on ourselves, because it really is quite remarkable what you can do if you're able to rid yourself of those. So I think
Yeah.
about that a lot these days. Go, Ryan.
All right. Hey everyone, I am Ryan. I am dialing in here from Northern Jersey. Really happy to be here today. Excited for this conversation. I most recently was at Priceline where I was overseeing product design, brand design, and user research. My role at Priceline came to an end in October. I'm excited to be starting something new, starting in January, so more news to come on that. In terms of bold leadership, some of it is maybe a little bit repetitive here, but one, I think, I think it's making decisions before you feel truly ready, but with enough clarity that your team feels ready to take that jump with you. Being transparent, even when the news isn't good, creating a space where people feel safe to be themselves and to be seen and to be heard. And, similar to what Noam mentioned, curiosity and taking big swings and knowing it's okay to fail. And it's as learn as you're able to, to learn fast, recover quickly, and stay human in the process. I think you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, these notions of being of humility, being able to change, be flexible of mind, let people see when you release beliefs that are no longer serving you, modeling that for other people. And this idea of failure, I think we're going to come back to that, risking, experimentation, and failure. This is an era that's really, really rich with that. And I think we tend to embrace like, let's take risks and experiment, but we don't really talk too much about how do we fail together? How do we do that well, and take those learnings forward? Um, all right, I want to ask you one more question, for each of you to answer. Maybe we'll go in reverse order this time. Thinking about the progression of UX over the past year, fill in the blank. At the beginning of the year, I felt blank, but today I feel blank. Ryan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, I'm getting over a little bit of a cough and cold here, so excuse the voice. I think at the beginning of the year, felt a little bit uncertain or maybe cautious. And I think now I feel really enthusiastic and energized about everything that's going on.
I love that. Okay, Noam, what about you?
I feel the same way. I was going to say confused at the beginning of the
Same.
year, or maybe even overwhelmed to a certain extent. And it's not that that went away completely, but I'm ending this year extremely, extremely excited.
Yeah, I'm curious too, as the panelists answer this, how if that resonates with you in the chat. Like, are you feeling that? Or are you feeling something different? It's okay if you do. All right, Cassie, how about you?
Yeah, they're stealing my words. Definitely started the year feeling overwhelmed, super
Hmm.
skeptical, and uh, to be honest, like not wanting to do this. Like I was like, I just don't, I can't with another generational change. Sounds great. Now I will say I have like moved through those emotions and I feel really curious. I'm like back to curiosity and optimistic and
Mhm.
experimental and kind of leaned into what's the promise and how do we realize the promise of this moment in time. I get really excited about that for sure.
That's wonderful. Jose, we'll wrap up with yours.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the year, anxiety and uncertainty came to mind. And I think I am ending the year in a very positive manner. One element that helped me deal with the uncertainty of the beginning of the year was kind of making that comparison of the 1990s when the CAD tools that came up
Mhm.
to help designers, architects, and other disciplines in our field. So I feel that AI is kind of playing that role. Is that tool that it will help us become better and more efficient in the work we're doing.
Yeah. I feel in my work lately, I've had a chance to talk to a lot of people and lots of different positions across UX. And it's nice to see this coming up organically in the panel because it really echoes a lot of conversations I've been having that we're still moving through it. Like I said earlier, we're still processing a lot of thoughts and feelings, and those are going to bubble up, and we have to help each other get through that. But I do feel this sense that we're moving from like, oh my God, to like, okay, we've got this. This can help us. We know better what to do with this now. So that's great. And it's fun to see in the chat how people are responding to that as well. All right, so let's kick off our first topic around value and quality. Kind of an evergreen question, right? That's taken on a new urgency. The value and quality of our work as humanists and strategists and organizations in this phase of the AI era. There's been a lot of talk about this year. A lot of people are writing about it and talking about it. Um, and we've talked about the unique value right now of UX having strategic and humanistic value, but we've long talked about the need to prove like bottom line ROI and value in organizations as well. So I'm curious, whoever wants to kick us off, has anything shifted for you in the past year around these conversations?
I can kick us off
Cool.
a lot. Maybe I'll choose one thing just to leave room for everyone. We have these questions all the time now at Figma around build versus buy. Do we want to, use another vendor or build something ourselves? I just
Hmm.
want to highlight the fact that just a few months ago, the dilemma of build versus buy was just buy. There wasn't a build part. We are now able, as a small team, to deliver incredible ROI by
Hmm.
building customized tools that are a perfect fit to what the organization needs. And that in itself, I think it's a rather incredible thing that just in the beginning of this year, not to mention the years before that,
Yeah,
simply was not possible, wasn't possible.
yeah.
I
I'd
like that. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to build on what Noam was saying because I think I really like that. We've done a little bit of that as well. Super exciting, and the ability to, as a research leader on a research team, that is not always typical of where we would create value. So that's been a pleasant surprise. I think one of the things we've thought a lot about is even in our existing roles. I thought I saw somebody call out kind of the what's changing and what remains the same is like a key theme, like really understanding in a moment like this of what needs to still be true. So as a research leader, I've thought a lot about how do we differentiate ourselves. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we're specialists in a world that's quickly um, democratizing a lot of those abilities. And so, if everybody can do small R research, what does it mean to be a big R researcher now? And how do we
Hmm.
actually bring to bear the unique skills and capabilities that make a researcher great at what they do? So, how do we think about differentiation in that sense and really hone our craft? At the most, I think you used the word strategic. That's a fun one to unpack, but at the most strategic, earliest phases in support of where the organization's trying to go.
Yeah, yeah. And building on that, I mean, in a world where anything is possible and we have new skills and new ways of working together, like it becomes more important to have that real connection to humans, to the needs that we're trying to meet in the marketplace. Because moving fast in the wrong direction is not a good place to be. And I have detected a growing appreciation for that
Yeah.
among very technical people, as well as product managers. I think there's more understanding of that than ever. Jose, curious what you think.
Yeah, I think the challenge that we have right now is we can move faster, but we have to be move faster with intention and clarity of where we're going.
Yeah.
I think if you remember about a month ago or 2 months ago, the MIT article on the 85% or 90% of the AI initiatives fail.
Yep.
Yes, but or no, and what that missed the point was what are they learning? which is
Right.
we're measuring it by, as Noam was saying, we can build something, we can try it. If it doesn't work, we learn that it doesn't work, that we can move to do something else. So it's kind of that testing, learning, experimenting, getting out of our comfort zone and moving towards something that could create that value. And I think the last comment that I'm going to make about this is that we have been in the perennial spotlight of proving value for design and research. It is a matter of promoting it to everybody in a very
Yes.
clear manner, in a very loud manner, in whatever forum we can find, in whatever kind of meeting we are, in creating our own spaces to promote that impact of design. Otherwise, we're going to continue being kind of the target of, or the potential target of these structuring changes that are happening across organizations.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan, were you going to chime in?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, excuse me, like I think just grab a sip here.
It's that time of year. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's really, I think, design UX research, I think the value of what we do is really starting to shine through more now. So everyone talks about what AI could do and think about problem framing. Like what problems are we trying to solve? Who are we solving it for? Why are we solving that problem now? Like AI could give you a lot of ideas, but it's not going to be able to negotiate the actual problems we need to solve for. If you think about prioritization, trade-offs, it can give you options, but it's not going to be able to negotiate strategy, politics, constraints. Likewise for, strategic design and really understanding mental models and design psychology, cognitive biases, thinking about judgment, um, you know, taste and quality. I think that really takes what we do in order to do those things right. And I think that is really starting to become more clear, more so than, if you do UX, for example, you're creating wireframes or mock-ups, or if you're a designer, you're making prototypes. So I think it's is actually elevating the craft and the skill that goes behind the discipline that we all do.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And, I think kind of circling back to, the conversation about leadership here, Jose, you talked about the MIT article and saying like all of these AI initiatives are failing. It was, in some ways, I would say a failure of imagination on their part to say like what you just said. What are we learning from that, right? So, and that's what we're here to kind of talk about today. So, you know, thinking about all what you just discussed, like how are you taking that into next year, and what advice would you have for leaders out there and people out there about if they're struggling with that in their organizations, about doing what you talked about showing the value, showing what we're capable of, um, proving that in their organizations. How are you moving that into next year as
Yeah,
leaders?
so I think one of the areas of work with design leaders that I have been engaged with over the past year and a half really deals with changes of behavior. What do we as design leaders and design practitioners, or when I say D, I mean capital D, so designers, researchers, content
Yep.
strategists, the holistic perspective on design is what kind of changes of behaviors can we assume? So I talk a lot about, or I highlight the fact that we love to talk about design process. We love to talk about best practices. We need to change that because our business stakeholders do not care about design process. They do not care what the business practices are. They care about like, how are you going to help me solve a problem I have? How are you going to help me, let's say,
Yeah.
increase engagement, increase signups, reduce churn, increase operational efficiency? So what are the business areas of impact that we can have? And
Yeah.
talking about experiments, one of the experiments I learned from a colleague of mine that I admire a lot. He goes like, I'm going to have every conversation with business leaders, and none of them are going to include the word design.
Yeah.
Uh, do you want me to save you 5 seconds in that operation that your team repeats 1,000 times, 10,000 times a week? And
Yeah.
then the conversation changes from that perspective, and people say, "Yeah, save me time, of course." So those are the kind of things that I'm working a lot with the global heads of design that I'm engaging with a
Yeah.
lot.
I love that. I think that's a really big lesson we can draw into next year is like, and to Noam's point about like limiting beliefs or like letting go of ways of being. I think we tend to like fetishize the design and research process and frameworks and all of these things and terminologies, and those don't mean anything to the business. They only mean anything when they're applied to solve actual problems. So I think that's a really big one to draw on. Noam, I'm going to just ask you what you think on all this.
I'm noticing a comment in the chat from Senya. Thank you for the comment that it would be great to talk leadership because AI is already being discussed everywhere. And I understand the frustration and where that's coming from, but I also want to note that obviously that there is a direct relationship between the era that we're in and what leadership needs to look like. One thing, for example, I think about a lot, and we've talked about this already around experimentation, is that there was a time, which I believe has gone, but maybe it's back now, when at Google, for example, they had the concepts of 80/20, where you could spend 20% of your time experimenting, working on side projects, right? And I think that as leaders these in this era, we have to acknowledge that we are going through a major transformation and we don't quite know where exactly this is all going, what
No,
works and what doesn't. And so we need to create more space than ever. It's probably not 80/20. It's more like 60/40, 70/30, maybe even 50/50. I don't know, where we give people on our team plenty of time to play, to experiment, to tinker, because it's only through those activities that we'll ever be able to figure out what the heck we're all doing here
yeah.
and where we should go. We're figuring it out, and it's going to take some time. This is a major, major change that we all have to adapt to. So, Ksenia, thank you for your feedback. I do believe there is a strong relationship between the technological shift and the leadership shift that we need to make, and that's my perspective on kind of where things need to go as leaders.
Can I build
Yeah,
on
I
that?
abs Oh
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Cassie, please go for
Well, I
it.
was just going to echo, I think, and I also saw the comment and I was like, it's a great call out. I see the AI fatigue. Everybody's like, oh my God, is this all we're ever going to talk about again? Living in Silicon Valley, I can tell you, yes, that is all we're going to talk about. So, um, I think maybe to plus one, what Noam's calling out is to say, as an organizational leader, this is all we're getting asked about from our leadership. So I will add on and say context really matters right now within your organization, within your industry space, your vertical space, your competitive space. So if you are in places where AI is disrupting, not just your own role, but literally your entire business value, this becomes pretty paramount as a leader to understand how to navigate and ensure we're setting our teams up for success, but also the entire business. Um, so, so think of your leadership as kind of sitting in the middle of both, trying to create, and we've heard today, create environments of psychological safety, experimentation, being able to take risks and failure, and also being demanded to deliver increasing business value, as Jose called out, and being really the people who are responsible for connecting the dots between the what we're trying to do on the ground, what operational efficiency we can unlock, how do we meaningfully move the business forward, and that it's recognized within the business as something that anybody else should care about and wants. That is a lot of what we are being called to do, and AI is really pushing on that. It is um, challenging a lot of the ways of thinking. I think there's a lot of we could talk another day about all the assumptions about the magic wand that AI is, and that people
Mhm.
would like, some of our folks out here would like to proclaim and say that it can be. And I hope we get there because I would love to see that future. We're not all there yet, right? So in the meantime, how do we continue to keep going forward with what is, if AI is going to be providing the horsepower, it becomes a tool in our toolbox. It's our new shiny tool, yay. That humans are the people who bring all the other delightful leadership skills we talked about earlier to the work and connecting that back to the customers, users that we aren't even talking about today that we serve. That's actually the role we're trying to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is the world, it is the waters we swim in now. It is the world that we live in. And what I'm taking away from all these comments is like we should rebrand this idea of AI fatigue. It doesn't serve us anymore to be like, I'm tired of talking about AI. Like, no, yes, of course. We have to rebrand that. We have to think about that differently. And I love this kind of dichotomy of tinkering and transformation because tinkering feels really small. It feels like something we can do, something that's fun, something that's interesting. But transformation is something really huge that we're doing together. And I just want to reemphasize, like, as we tinker through this transformation, we have to talk, we have to tell each other what the results are of those tinkerings and those experiments and those risks and those failures. Um, Brian, I'm not sure you've had a chance to chime in on this one yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of a lot of great points. I think really agree with what people said. There was one question that came through in the chat, which I think is kind of connected to all this, and it's um, Alex was asking about, team structures and hiring now with AI, and are you only hiring AI native designers that don't use Figma? And I don't,
Hmm.
but I, I mean, my view is you want to hire designers who, I mean, you talk about tinkering. I think it's a great word. You hire designers who actually want to take risk and who want to tinker and I think curiosity is really the most important thing. It's not AI first or AI native designers. It's designers who really want to understand how to solve the right problems and do it with just a very curious mindset and take that chance.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
have
mean, I think
to.
that's
So,
what. Go
sorry,
ahead.
Julie. I just have to echo that because it's so much harder to change someone's mentality compared to teaching them a tool.
Yeah.
This was never
Yes.
about this was never about tools. So I would always choose to hire for mentality and mindset over whatever tool, especially since shiny object syndrome has never been worse than it is today.
Yeah.
Tools are popping up left, right, and center all the time. It's very, very challenging to follow which tool is best. It's always shifting. That part of the AI discussion is quite of an annoyance to me. And so I really don't care. You might be a Figma expert one day and a lovable expert the next and a V0 expert the next. Things keep shifting.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously at Figma we're in it to win it, but tools change. It's all about mindset, in my opinion.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think the most important quality that this field needs right now is endless fascination, like genuine, authentic fascination with this moment in time, and figuring out what's happening and wanting to contribute to a more positive future. Totally. And this is a good segue actually into our next topic about roles shifting and roles changing, blurring, consolidating, however you want to call it. A lot of significant changes this year in the way that teams work and roles are functioning within organizations. We're talking a lot about shifts, right? From thinker to maker, teller to shower, designer to builder, people doing each other's work. Democratization seems like kind of a quaint term at this point, frankly. Um, but there's a lot of really big disruptions in how we think about who we are, what we do. I'm curious what you all have seen in the last year, and when it comes to this blurring of roles and all these changes. It's an experiment, right? Is it a fad? Is it a trend? Is it the new normal?
Yeah, I think I read one Brian Jacobs mentioned my product design role now includes research design, project management, front-end developer, and so on and so forth. I
Yeah.
think we're excuse me, what we're seeing is a pendulum between generalists and specialists. When you're in a smaller team, and that's also something that I have observed and discussed with the leaders that I work with, you tend to hire more senior people and more generalists because you need them to do more, cover more area. When you're in a bigger team, you get the chance to balance a little bit more between specialists and generalists. So that is something that is happening. So there's the comment about blending the roles within the design discipline. And then the bigger question, and I was actually talking to a design leader this morning about product leaders are doing a little bit of design, a little bit of coding, tech people are doing some of the design stuff as well. Designers are now getting into that arena as well. So those roles are also blending the boundaries a little bit more. But if we think really about uh, what's needed to scale an organization, technology will not disappear, design will not disappear, and product will not disappear. It just will strengthen from one another. What is happening is, and I was talking to Cassie as we were preparing this, the long cycles for research are going to tend to compress more. The long cycles for design and prototyping are going to compress much more. So it's kind of that ability that we're gaining through leveraging the tools that we're getting today that are making us more efficient, let's put it that way. And then how we compose the teams, that depends on how we are setting ourselves within the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just kind of add, I don't think it's a fad. I kind of see it as a recalibration, and I do think this is the beginning of a new normal. AI is without a doubt blurring the edges of certain roles, but I think this is also where collaboration becomes more important than maybe ever. Teams being aligned on how decisions are made, what quality looks like, what velocity they're going to be working at, the impact that they're chasing. So I think that's really, where we need to be. It is going to blur roles, and it's not like I don't really buy into this, one person and they're just going to be able to do everything, because I think
Yeah.
when everyone is able to do everything, I just think that teams are just going to lose accountability.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think team trust and respect and accountability are. I think the future belongs to really high functioning teams,
Right.
not individuals who can do everything. But I don't
Right.
know. Maybe that's a provocative statement. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Anybody else want to chime in on this one?
I think maybe just to build on what you're saying though, Julie, is I think so in the conversation we had as a preview to this, I will say as a researcher and that's somebody who's been a researcher for a very long time, I do appreciate the disruption of going, oh, we have been told to stay in our lane for a long time. So
Yeah,
I love the ability to go, oh, I can use Figma Make and experiment with like what would it look like to create a prototype based on customer feedback. I love for my teams to be able to do that because we often don't have capacity with our design partners to help us with that. So here's a way for us to elucidate insights we're getting from our customers of like, here's what the future might look like as a starting point, just as a conversation topic. Again, in the spirit of how do we work with our partners and what do they respond to? Visuals work, right? I can imagine I have colleagues who are working on that across our insights function. So I run an integrated market and product research team. There are also VOC insights, behavioral data. I'm like, as an insights person, tear all the walls down. I want all those insights connected because I think what the organization needs is, we talked about this earlier, is context. The context all lives in separate silos right now. So
yeah,
how do I get around all the silos? Because right now, the downside of I think what I love about all the tools, the other side of that is what I would say is very high fidelity looking outputs that I don't know are really have we scratched the surface and really thought deeply about like I'm a pragmatist, so is this like something anybody's looking for? Just because we can, should we, is like in the spirit of we're moving really fast and just shipping stuff and yay. But is this anything anybody needs or wants? Is it connected actually back to customer value that delivers business value? There is a risk of like, are we actually taking a pause to even do that? So how can we position ourselves to make sure we are continuing to be the connection point between humanity, the customers that we serve out here, and the tools and tech that we're actually using to build them?
yeah. And I think, tools, and Noam, you've written about this recently, so maybe you want to chime in on this, but like tools are tools. They have their limits, and humans using tools also have their limits. So, AI outputs to accelerate we don't know what the quality is of those either, right? We still need human oversight on that. And I think that's kind of a little bit of a slippery slope that a lot of people are navigating right now.
100%. I think research is a lot. I can only speak for our use cases. I think you and I talked about this, Julia, is a really great example of this is we get a lot of hallucinations still. And so if you, as somebody who has always been a firm believer in providing support and enablement for people who are not researchers to do research, this is terrifying. It's one thing to misunderstand what customers have told you. It's another thing to hallucinate people telling you things, and doing something with making decisions on that. So really having some, we think of this as augmenting our work, but some kind of like human in the loop or whatever we want to call that to
Mhm.
actually validate and look at what is the output to understand how credible is it? I think, I hope those models all get improved and we don't have to do so much of that over anymore. But right now
Yeah.
it is rife, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, as also a longtime researcher, I have to confess that I've probably hallucinated myself some
Sure.
findings into my
100%.
research reports. So none of it's perfect. No, I'm real curious what you have to say about this.
I would say three quick things. One of them is spicier than the others.
Love it.
So first of all, I was listening to the most recent podcast from Lenny's podcast with Tom Cohen, who's currently the chief product officer at LinkedIn. They are replacing their APM program, their associate PM program, with a full stack builder
Yeah.
program. And that to me is an early indicator that this is probably not just a fad, to Ryan's point. Something is going on here, and LinkedIn are by far not the only company who are considering this kind of full stack builder approach. So
Hmm.
we should be
They're the most
thinking about,
radical for sure.
yeah. So we should be thinking about what that means.
Absolutely.
Second thing I can
If
say,
you haven't listened to that podcast, like, please do.
it's
Maybe
really
somebody
good.
can find it and drop the link in there. It's
It's really
important.
good. The second thing is that I don't know about you, but as a manager, as a leader, two of my favorite things are A, when people come to me with solutions, not just problems, and B, when people adopt an ownership mindset. And I've worked for several companies where an ownership mindset was literally in the values of the company. Um, I think that with the tools we have at our disposal and in this era, it's easier than ever to be that if you just choose to be, right? It's easier to be an owner. It's easier to bring solutions, not just problems. It's easier to, Cassie's point, create a prototype, not just stop at recommendations or insights, but bring them to life and bring your customers' voices to life even more. So that's something I think about a lot. And then the spicier thing is that I would say we are all seeing a change in our roles because we're all becoming managers potentially of AI agents. As we speak right now, I have the team I work with, my team, who are doing all sorts of amazing things, I'm sure. And I have my agents who I know are doing amazing things as we speak in the background. We might all very soon become managers, not just of people, but we're all going to be managers of these AI beings, agents, whatever you want to call them, that are doing work for us. And that's an interesting thing.
A very interesting thing. And I'll share an even spicier take. And I that you and I have talked about a little bit, Noam, it's like this idea that um, AI, what does it mean to be human and what does it mean to be AI? I think our preconceived notions of that, I know mine change all the time as well. So, who knows what the future is with all of this. But I think we do have some next year at this time, it'll be interesting to get together and see like which of those things that we thought AI couldn't do is absolutely doing for us and pretty well right at this point.
Yep.
All right, so we have a few minutes. I want to just wrap up with some questions on our third theme around clarity, creating clarity and leading with curiosity. We've touched on this a little bit, but um, you know, I'm curious and maybe this has kind of come up in the Q&A a little bit, so I'm cheating and bringing a little bit of Q&A in a little bit early here. But what are some lessons you've learned about leading with curiosity and clarity this year that involves taking a risk and failing? That's a little bit of a curveball for you all. I didn't prepare you with that question.
I think I'm going to take it from failing on our leadership part, on playing our role. And I actually wrote an article earlier this year about the fact that we are not waking up one day and saying, I'm going to be a bad leader. But I think the question that Claire Lagarde placed is like, how do you navigate the situations in which you are in when your leaders are changing their mind all the time? They're setting up new goals or setting up new priorities or pursuing the new shiny object. Um, and I think those kind of pressures, when we are leading a team, are putting ourselves under the question of, is my job safe? Am I delivering value to the organization? And then in turn, I integrate that into my way of telling people what my expectations are. I'm putting undue burden to them, asking them to work, 60, 70 hours a week, not intentionally, but basically we're turning or internalizing some of that challenge of lack of clarity into maybe we're not leading in the most effective way or in the most positive way to create the conditions for our team to be successful. And I
Yeah.
think that is something that's a risk in which we are. And it is very important that we as leaders take some pause and reflect as to how we're showing up to our teams and listen to the signals and the feedback from our teams in order to be able to uh, adjust our course, not just to stay in the wrong path for too long.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I guess a follow-up question for all of you on that too is like, and this is coming up more as a overall theme in the Q&A, is like, what advice do you have for people who are working with leadership who are not giving them that? They're not providing that clarity and that vision. And, how do you want people on your team to tell you what they need from you?
I mean, in that case, I think it's okay to ask questions of leadership or let somebody know how you want them to communicate with you. I
Hmm.
think the worst thing you can do is get frustrated or be uncertain about something and just kind of sit on it and not say anything.
Yeah.
It's like ask, always ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you do ask and it's a no, then your life doesn't change. And if you get a better answer or something that kind of moves you in the right direction, then that's that's a positive thing. So I think it's just don't sit on it. If you don't speak up for yourself and if you don't advocate for yourself, um, nothing's going to happen. And I think we all, need to be accountable for making sure the leadership understands the value of what we do. Um, and that's not always about talking about it, it's showing it and
Yeah.
understanding how to push back with this diplomacy and using data, using what I think of it as like challenge equity.
Yeah.
Your things are going to come up that you're not going to agree with, and you have to kind of think about, you don't need to swing at every pitch. So sometimes you need to think about, is this worth the battle, or are we just going to kind of do what we're asked because there are more important things we just really need to be focused on.
Yeah, I mean, not sitting on things I think is really important, but it does take a lot of courage and um, guts to speak up to leadership sometimes. So I guess from your perspectives, how do you invite people into that? I mean, this is coming up in the chat again. I feel whiplash from Angie. I feel whiplash all the time with the shifting of priorities, make sure I'm keeping my team on task. I mean, I don't know, something I've seen when I was leading a larger team was kind of strength in numbers. When a group of people on my team would come to me like organized and say like, this is a problem, we need you to pay attention to this now. That was very effective for me. That definitely got my attention. And it was felt probably a little less risky for the people involved as well.
Yeah, I'm a big, and I try to coach my own teams about this, is managing up. as a leader on a team. I actually really appreciate what Julie called out. And I used to be on Julie's team, so I learned this from her. And the other piece of that is, again, coming with curiosity. So I think one of the things I guess I would offer is challenge your own assumptions. I think we all are out here reading tea leaves. So if you can come to your leadership at whatever level they are, and whether they're your reporting structure or your partner teams, with curiosity and wanting to understand. So the why are we making this decision? What information do you have that maybe I don't have because I don't understand? Um, an invitation to a conversation. I think the way that that sometimes shows up when you are frustrated or yeah, you're feeling that whiplash and you're in conflict is it comes across of like, you guys aren't doing your job. You don't know what you're talking. It comes across as very accusatory. And I really do believe I work in an organization like everybody's doing the best they can with what they have available to them. I actually do believe that. I think we all need to be called up and to do more. But I think one of the things we've seen is like again in the spirit of everybody's moving really fast and there's a lot going on at the industry or business level. Decisions are getting made really quickly. How well are we communicating those? How well are we actually creating transparent? We talk about transparency and how well is that being communicated in your organization may not be happening. So inviting people into a conversation of help me understand
Yeah.
could be a good start to then of a way that you can then offer feedback of like, hey, that may be your intention. That is not what's happening. Your intention or your outcome you're driving toward may look like this. I'm telling you, that's not what people are understanding, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, something I've been talking about for years now is a limiting belief that I think we all fall subject to is the us versus them mentality. And just believing that there's an us and there's a them, and I'm on the us side, you're on the them side, and now I'm pissed. That doesn't do anybody any good. And this kind of leads to a question we got from the audience. Let's see if I can find who it is here. We got a lot of questions. I'm proud of you guys. No, I can't see it, but it was for Noam. It was what limiting beliefs do you think we need to shed next year?
Mhm.
You talked about that at the beginning. Or that are you
Well,
trying to get
well,
rid of,
that's a
personally?
tough question. But there was another question that I did answer, which maybe I'll somewhat evade your question by answering that one again. But I think it all relates. The question was around how you identify a limiting self-belief and how do I recommend to overcome it. I try not to prophesize. I don't know what limiting beliefs are going to come up next year. All I know is that the way I identify limiting belief, first and foremost, is I ask people, did you try? Did you try? Are you coming to me with something after you've tried or before you've tried? Because if you haven't tried, it's incredibly likely that there's some sort of limiting belief there. And maybe that's just me being naive, but I truly believe that incredible things are possible. I also wanted to mention, assuming that some leaders are watching this webinar before we end, I just wanted to mention that I spend way too much time on social media, and one person I follow, Tim, created a watch company, which is a very hard thing to do. He created a watch company from his kitchen, and now he sells hundreds or thousands of watches every single day. Incredible company. And his tagline, his shtick on social media is "Love your journey." Love your journey. And I want to put a call out to leaders to encourage people to focus a lot more on the journey than just the outcome, to celebrate journeys, not just the outcome, to
Yeah.
acknowledge that people had to go and push through limiting beliefs and push through failures
And
and
learn.
try again and ultimately got things done. And it's that journey that's a lot more important to me than the ultimate outcome. So this is really a call to leaders to celebrate those journeys, to give people the kudos they deserve on that. I really hope we do more of that in 2026.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
Well said.
Just yes, so the hearts are flying. I love it. Um, I mean, I want to ask one more question here, and then I'll leave it to the panelists. Maybe they're holding on to something like Noam just to share that they want to make sure to convey today. But there's a question here from Karina that I think cuts to the heart of this, a lot of what we're talking about. In my experience this year, the wave of everyone can vibe code and everyone can use AI to get a mock-up has really highlighted power dynamics in teams and how different leadership styles help their teams navigate that well or not. Thinking of the everyone's trying to replace my work or feels like they can now do my job that individual contributors can feel, and how leaders can make the adoption of these tools feel empowering and rather than threatening. I'm curious how you all approach these changing dynamics.
I'm going to connect that question with, I think, where with the mic drop that Noam just offered us, which is, as a leader on the team, I think one of the things that I've tried to do is to create time and space for people to actually try. I think it's a really great point of, have you tried? As a leader on the team, what I can offer is to go, let me create space for us to try. And so one of the things we're actually doing right now, we have a workshop series we're going through to play with some of these AI tools without constraint. Like, you're not in the demand of your actual work right at this moment. This is a chance for us to play, actually make it fun. And so I'll give a shout out to Josh on my team, who's actually doing a really fun activity. We're doing an AI advent calendar right now in the season. We tied it to the season, and every day we have a new fun holiday related thing. And you might use one of the LLMs, or we might be using Figma Make, or we might be using something else to go generate something. And then the Figma Make one, shout out to Figma, is very accessible. Like, I went and created a little app for fun for the naughty and nice list. I was like, wow, I've never done that as a leader on the team. So giving the space and the empowerment to do so, and then to be frank, like modeling the behavior. I'm also interested in doing that. That sounds fun. Let's try it. I
Yeah.
think it's been a really great hallmark of how I think how we as leaders can bring that to life, um, and empower the ability to try. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my big lessons this year is the magical power of the three words. I don't know, but I'll try.
Yeah,
All right. Oh,
I think we have two options: resist and fight, which will be the losing proposition, or ask ourselves and ask our teams, what tools do we need? What kind of training do we need? How do we enable our team to get access to that kind of knowledge and tooling, so we can then, as Noam and Kassie just mentioned, try, experiment, build, learn, and expand our AI and technology fluency. That doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to turn into technologists or other roles, but we're going to embrace the opportunities that we have to expand our knowledge and learn something new. And I think that's going to be the case as we continue to move forward into 2026.
yeah. Yeah. I love it. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I
Mic drop
mean,
moment. Short mic drop
I
moment.
don't a little bit of a gear shift, but I guess I mean, we've talked about
Yeah,
leadership, and one of my favorite quotes is by Stephen Covey, and it's leadership is a choice, not a position. I think a lot of times people think of
totally.
leadership equating to being an executive, and that's not the case. And I think it's showing up with clarity, following through, helping others, leaning on people, and I think that's really important. And when we talk about culture and speaking up or what, like what are we going to do? Like we all make up the culture that we're a part of. And I think if we can all model the right behavior and do the right thing, that kind of spreads. And that's, I think, how you build culture and how culture starts to change in a way that's, favorable to everybody.
Yeah, yeah, we are they. And this question about power and power dynamics is something that I've really long been fascinated with. And, Karina, to your question exactly, like I think the thing about power dynamics is they're mostly invisible to people unless they're paying attention to them and mapping them and calling them out. So I think that's something leaders can really develop skills at in the coming years, like really being explicit about the power dynamics on their teams and in their organizations and how those are shifting, and being really respectful of people as they're navigating those shifts. But please join me that hour just flew by. I feel like I asked half the questions that I intended to ask today, which is always how it goes. And we didn't even get to most of the wonderful questions in the chat. So we'll see if we can figure out a way to follow up on those. But this recording will be available on Dscout's website after this. And I just want to really, from the bottom of my heart, thank each of you, Jose, Noam, Ryan, Kassie, for showing up today with such great gems of wisdom and humility. And thank the whole Dscout team for all the great webinars they put together this year and for ending on this very high note. So thank you, Dscout team. Thank you, everybody who showed up and chatted and participate in this discussion today. Really appreciate that as well. So happy New Year. Good luck to us in 2026. We got this.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.